Yes, we cannot change what happened. But what we then have to do is change our attitude to what happened. Where we say, I will refuse to be a victim of person, people, situation, and circumstances, and thereby still I will create and facilitate my own destiny. We cannot take responsibility sometimes for what people do to us, but we can take responsibility for how we feel as a result. And thereby we do not allow that person still to have power over us. Because we can sit in the shadow of that person for the rest of our lives, being victims of their behavior, which many of us do, and we do for the rest of our lives. Or we can decide to move forth. And the way to do it is to shift our attitude to how people behave, be it physically, mentally, and emotionally towards us. And that then gives us power. So we don't allow that person, people, situation, and circumstances to determine who we are. We determine who we are. Not because of them, but in spite of them. And that allows us to shift. As I said then, we could not control what they may have done to us, but then we take responsibility, and responsibility is the awareness of what has happened. An awareness of the full spectrum of human behavior, be it absolutely bad or absolutely good. And then we don't live by affirmation, acknowledgement, approval, agreement, admiration, adoration. We live and are driven by, as you may have said, a set of principles, values, ethics, morals that are in keeping with a connection beyond just the societal connection. We may say it was a universal connection, something far more powerful than even the societal connection. Because at some point, the society, the tribe, you may find, as we do find, maybe at the stage we're all at, you've outgrown that particular tribe. Or what you want out of life is not in keeping with what that particular tribe wants. Obviously here, when I talk of the tribe, I'm talking about the world you engage with. And at various points in your life, you and I may have had to leave behind familiar surrounding circumstances for something more, because that's where you kind of blossomed even more. Rather than sticking with a set of rules and regulations that were not in keeping with who you truly are. You had to step forth beyond that and tie into something more. And for all of us, it's a journey, leaving behind those, some might call it archaic set of rules for something far more. Finding a place where the way you think, the way you feel is more in keeping with that particular society, and thereby finding a higher level of connection, a deeper level of connection. And that then truly sets you free. So you then don't allow yourself to be victims of situations. And something interesting, as much as I use the word responsibility and say, why don't we all step towards responsibility? The reason we don't want responsibility at some level is because the opposite of responsibility, again, in a different way, is reward. So the less responsibility, like for example, some of us have families, right? And we all agree having children or a wife or a husband, partner, involves a level of responsibility. So for example, if I'm going home today, I assume it will be around 5, 7. But if I pitch at home at 2 in the morning, well, given that it's lockdown and we're supposed to be home at a certain time, that will be challenging, all right? But I assume there was a bit of reward if I had to come home at 2 in the morning for my personal benefit, right? Not sure what I'll be up to, but one can set your imagination free in that sense, right? And as much as I don't do that, means I am being hopefully responsible to try and pitch home at a particular time to be there for family, right? So some of us don't want responsibility because there's an element of reward. Oh, I can do whatever I want to, okay? And therefore that's where the challenge is. But all of us also know, as much as you give up responsibility, you may get a level of reward, but it doesn't necessarily fulfill you. It doesn't give you that, I feel okay about myself. And as much as you party on down till 2 in the morning, at some point it gets a bit like, at some level, I assume it might get boring, and you want that different level of connection. Because why do you go home to family? Because there's with family, there's a powerful connection. Right? Your kid comes running up to you, hey, dad, mom, as much as the partner may give you a bit of grief, there's an element of a relationship where we can share with each other. We all want that. But as much as we want those connections, we want that deepest level of connection where you're completely connected to the world at large, to the universe at large. As you might have said, to your higher power. Whatever it is. And why I use the words higher power? Because you and I want to tap into that higher power, that higher energy, rather than living in this mundane, ordinary state. And for us in here, if we not just at a mundane, ordinary state, we're in a state of depression, hopelessness, anger, irritation, frustrations. And we want to raise those energy levels beyond that low state. And it, yes, involves a connection with something far, far, far more. Because you recognize at this level, no matter how much you connect again with the society that your mind surrounds itself by, it's not enough. It has to be something more than that. And that's where we need to aim, to lift this tree up, because at the moment, as it stands, it's sagging towards the negative. Because why? We are trying to please, trying to make right, trying to make happy. And this expression, no matter how much you may try to please others, you please some people some of the time, but you won't please them all of the time. And we're living according to a set of rules and regulations that sometimes, if you look at them, they'll disappear the next day. We're experiencing this during pandemic. During this year, we've learned level 5, level 4. 2 years ago, these concepts never existed. Right? We're changing the rules of the game daily. And yes, every day when the rules of the game change, there's opinions on both sides as to whether it's worth it or not. And you're wondering who's right, who's wrong. And 10 years from now, people will say, geez, what were you guys thinking? And there'll be a group of people saying, you wasted your time having the lockdown. Or another group saying, you should have just had everyone sit at home for an entire year. Right? And who knows what is right? It actually comes down to something more. It's not about what is right. It will be about what is the truth. And as much as you and I fight for right, people even go to war to determine who is right. And it's just that who has a bigger army or is more powerful wins and says, I'm right. That's not necessarily who is right.